Personally, I would say I'm indifferent on the plus-minus grading system change. However, if I were to be the one to make the decision, I would be in favor of a conversion to the plus-minus grading system.
Personally, I'm for a plus-minus grading scale. It's a more refined way to calculate students' grades, and I think it'll result in a more clear picture of the good work that our students are doing.
The plus-minus grading system is a more accurate reflection of learning and retention rates. And actually, one thing students may not be completely aware of is you would see grade inflation in terms of GPA go up. If you just think about how the plus-minus grading system works, it's not divvied out like a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 point system scale as a standard-based system, which again is what we have. It's broken up into 4.0, 3.6, 3.3. So again, it would be a more accurate reflection of learning and retention and grade inflation for the student body.
Well, I mentioned having a more refined, right, a more accurate scale, and I think that's really the crucial one. But there's also, for me, the larger question of there are standards in higher education. And right now, we're an anomaly. Grandview is an anomaly in that we are one of the only schools in the state. We're the only nonprofit school of our kind that still uses a whole letter grade scale. And that means something, right? That's the kind of thing that employers look at and might raise an eyebrow to. That's certainly the kind of thing that our peer institutions look at and raise an eyebrow to. And that concerns me. I worry about our reputation. So I think the shift is as much about credibility as it is about accuracy and benefit to the students.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, the initial backlash was students they'd surmised that their grade would be changed from what was an A, say like a 90, 91, to an A minus. That was the initial pushback. And then some additional pushback we received was, again, as I just mentioned, with the curriculum. Some courses, say like education, already have like a higher standard of A minus, or nursing, a more rigorous program, say, than other programs on campus. So a lot of those departments reached out to me and expressed how they were not in favor of it because they didn't feel that it would give an accurate representation in terms of grading.
No, not really any backlash. There's been a lot of, why don't we do this? You know, there's been sort of a lingering confusion. There's some concern from students, which I get because they don't have the sort of broader institutional picture or, you know, the history of just looking at grade data. So their natural assumption would be, oh, grades will go down. When I was an undergraduate student, my assumption probably would have been the same. So I wouldn't call it backlash so much as concern, and rightly so. Students care about their grades. They want to know what's going to happen. And I feel pretty comfortable saying I don't think anything bad's going to happen. I think rather the opposite.
If the conversion were implemented, I wouldn't see it as a senior, and as sophomore students, that may be the first year it's implemented. Anytime you do a program or a conversion like this that could have huge ramifications on grading, you have to do a soft rollout. This is not something that could happen next semester. It's the registrar office has to do a lot, faculty has to do a lot with it, and so does the provost office. So if it were to be implemented, say, this year, it would probably be a 2-year rollout before it is finally implemented.
Well, it's not a question of when yet, right? This is not a policy that's actually been voted on or approved. It hasn't even gone to faculty for consideration yet. It is a conversation that's happening in our committees, and at some point that conversation will go to faculty and there will be some form of a vote. The thing that we have to be very clear about is that this is not something that would happen immediately. This is something that would have to happen at a point in the future. You would need to cycle through a cohort of students while also making clear to all of your incoming students that at this point these changes will happen. That's the only way you can do it fairly and equitably to people. So the when is not an answer I can give you, but it's not going to be soon in the sense of, you know, this year or next, or even likely the year after that. I think, to be fair, I think 4 years would probably be the earliest it could possibly happen.
One thing I'd like to add is this issue of converting to a plus-minus grading system, it is probably inevitable. It will occur. So what Viking Council is doing is we're trying to be proactive with the aforementioned comments I made earlier, as you know, creating a curriculum that's more conducive to the optimal learning and retention rates. We're working on issues like that to help make the system more favorable to students rather than preventing it from happening. That, unfortunately, is outside of the student government's control. Again, as students, we have to trust the administration as well as the staff and faculty on their judgment. They have our best interests, so it's something that our student government is working with them on this semester as well.
You know, I would just encourage people who are curious about this to go read a bit more. There's decades of information out there on plus minus grades, and so get curious, see what you can find out.